You know what? There's two things that can inspire a man. One is
a phone. One is a phone, right? There's a lot of inspiration comes from phones. And what's the other one?
I got to do the show. Oh, you're doing the show. Hey, that giggling you hear comes from a muse, a beautiful little imp who comes all the way to this set just to smile and make me happy. Chanel Ryan.
Hi, Del.
Hey, beautiful.
You're beautiful too.
No, I'm not. I'm Quasimodo, and you're the girl I ring the bell for. Mark Giordino.
I heard the peanut gallery laughing too.
Mark Giordino sitting next to you.
Hi, Mark.
Co-host, writer, producer, director. Bon vivant.
Man of many hats.
He's a man of mystery too. Look at you. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Actress, model.
This is true.
What have you been doing?
What have I been doing? Let's see. I have a few films.
Tell me about your best film experience. We're going to go to all the films, but tell me about your best film
Best
experience.
film experience. Gosh, I don't know. I had a lot of fun shooting. Horror films tend to be the most fun to shoot.
Now, stop.
Yes.
Why do all the pretty girls love horror films?
It's not that I love horror films. Comedy is my first love.
No, but so Paul Mooney said that the most endangered species is the white woman because every film you see, they're slashing and cutting
That's
them
funny.
up. Isn't that no? Is it true?
Yeah, it is true.
And I see movies. I watch a movie tonight. I'm flipping through the channels, and some woman is crawling through a pipe, and some guy stabbing her in the leg. I go, wait a minute, what reality is this? And then I turn to the news, and I see that one of the girls who was kidnapped by that guy.
Cleveland?
We shouldn't. Let's not even say his name because I feel like
I know.
Yeah,
but,
we're not giving him any notoriety.
Well, here's a funny thing. No, he's dead. Doesn't matter. But the thing was, she said, I want my life back. And she's made millions of dollars now, and she's out. And I was looking at her, I'm like, oh my God, it is true. It is true. Because it went right from being a movie to being real in that 1 second. But all the girls like making horror films.
No,
but your first love is comedy. I'm going to get to it.
My first love is comedy. Well, no, it's not. It's not even that we so much. Horror films are really fun to make because you're in this complete. It's a very safe environment where crazy, wild things happen.
Right.
And you're perfectly safe. So that in itself makes it fun. But I think there's such a demand for films in the horror genre, and the fans are so crazed that they can't churn them out quick enough. And they can also be made for,
I'll tell you why.
Without getting too deep,
Yeah.
our society's becoming more and more twisted. It's a little bit scary when you watch the news. It's back to what I said, don't mention the name of the man who committed the horrible crime.
He's
Because I feel
gone.
like a lot of these people commit these crimes because they know, the press is going to cover it. They're going to get their 15 seconds of fame.
Well, go ahead. Why do you think it is?
Oh, I don't know. I was just
I'm going to tell you why it is.
Okay.
Because I studied this. Okay. You're 14 years old. You got a crush on somebody from across the aisle. And you stare at her every day. And she flips her hair back a certain way and she smiles. Yeah, just like that. And she smiles and she giggles just like that. And you walk up to her and you say, hi. And she says, I don't talk to guys like you. And you shine them on, right? And that weak, defeated guy has to find a way to get back. And I think it's a fantasy of a lot of guys who were shunned early on to see what happens in those horror films.
In their place.
Would put them in their place. And I think there's a lot of weak men out there.
Interesting.
A lot of weak guys who got blown off and didn't know how to develop their own ego and their own confidence to say, well, maybe she's not for me. Instead, they want to get a revenge against them. And I think that's why you see so many horror films about guys destroying and terrorizing and frightening women.
I think also that there's a formula that works with films, and one of them is you have to have girls scantily clad. It's just part of it. Like sex sells. That is just a fact. And so it's an easy way to, she's running and her dress rips a little bit so you can see her leg. And you know what I mean? She's running and then she gets wet because something spills on her. And you know what I mean? It just goes on and on.
I know. Unfortunately, I know what you mean, but that's the kind of film that I absolutely don't like. And it's
I'll
the kind
tell
of
you
film that
what,
I won't watch and I won't even
I
make.
don't watch. I have a very overactive imagination.
I can
so
tell.
As a general rule, I don't watch horror films.
Answer your question. Wait.
Scare me.
Let me
No.
answer your question. Just
Your
answer your
thing
question.
is, do I ever get to
Just
answer
let me
the
answer your question.
No. You go ahead and ask
What kind of
the question.
shampoo do you use? Because your hair is magnificent.
I don't even know. Something that I can't even pronounce. It's written in Japanese.
Japanese. Let's talk about that when we come back. We're going to Japan on the show when we come back. Don't you go anywhere. While we were away, Chanel Ryan leaned over the distance between us and said, "You remind me of a teddy bear whose eyes I poked out when I was 7." And I feel good about that because at least I have some kind of traction with her.
That's awful. Who would poke their teddy bear's eye?
I don't know.
If I poked my teddy bear's eyes out when I was 7, studies show that I'm on my way to becoming a serial killer. I still have my teddy bear from when I was 7.
I love teddy
Little
bears.
FYI.
Talk to me about comedies.
I love comedy. Just shot a fun part in an indie comedy called Love Addict. Before that, I was in New Orleans shooting another really fun comedy, Mind Puppets.
Talk to me a little bit about when you say I was shooting.
Filming.
What is
Filming.
the? No, I get it, but I'm saying, what is the experience like for you?
I mean, each set is different.
Did you find that to be true?
What?
Each set is different,
Well, yeah, they are.
or do you get?
Like each set has sort of a life and a
Pulse of its own.
exactly. That's a good way of putting it. It stems down, I think, from the producers and the director. They sort of kind of set the tone.
For people who don't know, who are going to look at this episode and go, "I want to be like Chanel Ryan," right? Because they are going to. Because they look at you and they look at me gawking all over you, and Mark keeps giving you like the little once where he turns his head. People pick that up on the show. Look at him.
Mark's like, no, I'm not.
Yes, he is. He's
like, I never did that.
And remind me to ask you about fisheye too, okay?
Fisheye?
Fisheye. But don't forget we're gonna ask about that.
Probably against my better judgment. I'll
No,
remember to
you ask about
you.
fisheye. Tell people what it's like to be on a set the first time from your first. What was it like? What was the excitement?
I'll tell you, the first film I ever did, I was about 17 years old. I booked the lead in a fun family-style comedy called Waiting for the Rocket. And I think I was so young and inexperienced and naive. Now I realize what a big deal it is to book the lead in any film. So I'm in there doing the lead in it, and at the time I had no idea how amazing it was.
Yeah.
It was just a job. I would go, and me and the other actress would sit there, and we'd run our lines, and there was a little, really cute little bunny rabbit. We were shooting on this farm, and I would hang out with the bunny rabbit in between takes, and it's sort of my job, so it's cool, I guess. At the time, I didn't. Now I appreciate how cool it was. At the time, I didn't know.
Mark, what don't people know about being on a set? For neophytes or people who've never been, or for people who are just going to be, or what are they missing?
Well, I think that what a lot of people that aren't in the business don't understand is how mentally taxing it is to work on a film set.
Yeah.
The days are long, and
This is true.
and many times it's deep into the evening.
And when the day ends, you're not done because you're home prepping for the next day, which you could have anywhere from, I don't know how many pages and scenes to memorize, but it's a tremendous amount of work.
And you have to keep your energy up because then you're working in scenes, and then you may not be in a scene for several hours and then
Yeah.
come back on. And so you have to learn how to pace yourself. And I think initially when you first start, the energy is extremely high and wasted because you're absorbing it all in, and then when it's your turn, sometimes you've used a lot of yourself up. So I think as you grow as a professional, you grow to pace yourself so that you can keep your levels at the right points and peaks during the course of a day, a week, and a month, or however long you're on something.
I
Go
I
ahead.
find that I generally stay, and it's not that I'm unsocial and I'm a mean person. I generally
Let
try
us be
to.
the judge of that. Oh,
You're like, oh no. No, I generally try to. I'm not one of those actors that can just hang out all day because it uses all my energy, and then when it counts when I'm on set, I'm not focused. So I generally keep to myself. I stay in my dressing room, and I just kind of keep going over whatever it is I'm doing. I just am quiet and I stay to myself. That being said, except for the last couple of projects I've been on, when I'm the lead in something, I have no free time because you're constantly working. In between sets, you're prepping. In between scenes, you're prepping for the next one, and there's a lot of pressure on you. The last couple of things I've done, though, I've gone in and done supporting roles, which has been so much fun. Okay. What are we gonna do?
Well, I said we take the damn pills.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Josh, I'm really scared. What if it's not what he says it is? I remember how excited I was the first time that I met Hart. I was out with my girlfriend Lynn, and we were at this little dive bar in North Hollywood. Her boyfriend Jesse was in a band and they were playing. We're up at the bar buying drinks, and all of a sudden the most beautiful man that I've ever seen kind of saunters up to me, and he just stands really close to me and he looks directly in my eyes and he says to me, "You are so hot, it causes me physical pain." I was just completely blown away. Like, no one's ever said anything that nice to me before, you know? And we started talking, and I could just tell he was a really genuine guy. A few drinks later, he came back to my place with me, and I just thought, wow, you know, this is it. This could really be the guy. Was I ever wrong?
During the break, Chanel Ryan got up out of her chair, came over here and whispered to me, "For a bald fat guy, you're not that bad." And I take that as a compliment.
Oh, no.
Tell me, when you are dreaming, what do you want to do? What would be your best gig? What do you see yourself doing in Hollywood?
Dreaming?
Because we all have dreams. You know, Mark's recently made a film with Joe Pesci and Oscar de la Hoya, which I think is a magnificent film called
That's a
Behind the
good one.
Gate, right? But how often do you work with Joe Pesci, Mike Post, Oscar de la Hoya? I mean, he may do it on a regular basis, I don't know. But for a lot of people, that would be a dream job. And he took me over one day and said, "Hey, Pesci wants to talk to you about some of the writing, so would you please go to his house?" And I got to tell you, you know, I'm not easily impressed. But a lot of things make an impression on me. That was one of the days in Hollywood that has made an impression on me because it's changed the way I work now. So talk to me about what you'd like to do, because I know what I want to do. And I'm going to say it in a second. But what
I mean, my goal is kind of what I'm doing, but
you got a perfect head. You know, I'm looking at your jawline. It's just beautiful.
Well, thank you, Del.
I'm just here.
You need to get the sledgehammer out and start busting up that wall, because I'm not going to fit through the door when we're done here.
Listen. Fine. All right, go ahead. You're saying?
What was the question
Dream
again?
job.
Dream job. You know, my goal right now is to start working more on studio projects. And that being said, the last couple things that I've done are, you know, I go back and forth between studio films and usually leads in indies.
Indie work. Mark,
Yeah.
would you explain that for people who don't know what the difference between the studio and the indie system is? Because a lot of people don't understand that. They think that just making movies is always the same.
No,
It's not.
Not at all.
No. Well,
Big
an
difference.
independent picture is usually financed privately and usually does not have the luxury of as large a budget for both cast, crew, size, location, all the things that you would rent or need or to be furnished. Your time frame for shooting is usually condensed quite a bit because of the amount of days. Every day costs X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
The studio project is usually bank financed or financed by large corporations and or individuals. It has the luxury of all the equipment.
Well, I'll tell you what the studio projects have the luxury of.
What?
You have the luxury of several rehearsals before you film, and then several takes, sometimes 15, 20, 30. On an indie film, you're lucky if you get a rehearsal, and you get 1 to 3 takes.
You know, there's a great number that Stanley Kubrick was shooting, Eyes Wide Shut, with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. And there was a take that they just couldn't get right, a scene, and so he shot it 150 some odd times. Now, the investors went nuts because he was wasting so much film because he was shooting on film. So they're up in arms about the cost of this wasteful process, but he's an auteur and an artist, so you got to leave him alone.
Yeah.
On an indie film, that's not going to happen.
On an indie film, I feel like the odds are stacked against you to do good work. You really need to go in there knowing what you're doing, and even then, it's very difficult. I just can't describe it. Oftentimes, the actors aren't as seasoned. Sometimes the crews are good on an indie film. Sometimes they're more inexperienced.
Bigger studio films tend to have better crews.
Oh, absolutely.
Only because they're people who are being paid.
The level of professionalism
Yeah,
is
it's a
very
whole-
different on a.
But there's no excuse not to have a good attitude.
And there
on
are
set.
some amazing indie films, and don't get me wrong, they're fun to do, and I'm thankful, and I'm doing
Yeah.
a couple coming up. But
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but
Would you look at
there
Mark
is a
for a
difference.
second? Can you catch her profile? Is that amazing? Or is that just me? That's amazing. When we come back, hey, I'm over here. When we come back, we're going to talk about fisheye. Don't go anywhere.
Oh no.
There's a thing that women do when they're walking, and you're walking slightly behind them, where they look at you with a fisheye, and they can see everything, right? You know what I'm talking about? You ever see that? Huh? Tell me if I'm making it up, because I want to know, because women see everything, right?
We do see everything.
But they
That's
do this
because
fisheye
we're observant.
thing.
We have to constantly watch you.
Well, yeah, we need to be watched. Men are pigs. There's no question about that. I never met a man who wasn't a pig. And I don't mean that in a bad way. But in order to find the truffles, you got to be a pig. Huh? Am I wrong? You want a truffle, you got to be a pig.
Oh my God.
Or you got to know one.
Okay.
You truffle. Hey, but the fisheye is true, correct? They see, and why do they give you that weird look?
I don't know that I catch myself walking going.
You don't see guys who are coming up on the side of you, something, then you come when guys are looking, you don't notice when men look at you?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
I mean, sometimes. I mean, I think we notice everything, but it's not. I'm not trying to be sly or
Is it a
sneaky
bad
about
thing
it.
when men look at you?
Not usually. It depends on the man and how he's looking, I guess.
Like, give me an example of what's wrong.
Well, that was a little bit lecherous.
See, that's what I want to
overt.
know.
Yeah.
But here, you walk in here looking like that, right?
What should I have worn?
Well, I think what you have on is brilliant. But here's the
Next time when I come back.
Wait a minute, let me finish. Here's the thing that men are up against, okay?
Tell me.
Men are visual creatures. That's why there's so much beauty in the world, okay? A man built the Eiffel Tower. A man built Mount Rushmore. A man built the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Huh? A man built Hoover Dam. A man painted the
And I
Mona
bet you
Lisa.
there's a woman behind it.
Let me finish. Let me finish. Let me finish. Mark often says, and he's right, the only reason there's things in the world is because of women who men create them for.
My father always said, he said, without women, men wouldn't eat a lot.
Wouldn't need it. We'd be cavemen fighting over rocks. But because of women,
That's interesting.
right, we are driven to create beautiful things, right? You know, James Cameron made Terminator for his first wife or his second wife, huh?
Wow.
When she was beautiful.
I never knew that.
Yeah, well, she started Terminator. That was his
Linda
wife.
Hamilton.
Linda Hamilton,
yeah.
right?
Well, she's
Gorgeous.
still beautiful.
No, she's not. Hey,
She is.
let me express something to you. I put you in a chair and Linda Hamilton, and we go to a party in these two magic chairs. We can go to anywhere in the world, these two magic chairs. More guys come up to you than Linda Hamilton. I swear to you, and you
I'm
know
not
it's
so sure
true.
about I actually don't know. She's Linda Hamilton.
It doesn't matter. If James Cameron dumped her, there's a reason. Trust me. Now, He made the next film. No, wait. For Susie Amos, right?
Okay.
And he was married to Gail Ann Hurd, correct? Huh?
I couldn't tell you.
One of the biggest female producers in the world,
Okay.
right? But he keeps trading up. Keeps trading up.
Who else was he married to?
You tell me. I'd like to know.
Wasn't it Catherine Bigelow?
Ooh. So my point is that men are visual creatures, and they look at what's beautiful. Then they create something beautiful. That's where the term muse is. I've never heard the word muse being used once for a man, but I've always heard it being.
Yeah.
Well, I don't make this stuff up, but I want to know because
You make
But
some
is
of
it-
it up, but
no,
not
I don't
this,
make it
you're
up.
not
But
making
I was
up.
looking at you, right, and you go, well, that's a little awkward. Well, how do you think I feel inside being an inferior creature looking at you? How do you think I feel? I always feel awkward. Therefore, men, right, are pigs, make these horrible horror films where women are getting sliced and diced, right? It all goes back.
Because you feel awkward and inadequate?
All men do. All men do. You know who does
See
that
what
to
you're
them?
learning here today?
Apparently, yeah.
Their moms do it to them.
Okay.
Norman Bates syndrome.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess you learn something new every day.
Well, you hope so.
I've never met a man who could truly stand up in the face of a woman of overwhelming beauty or intelligence.
I don't know about that.
Well, I'll give you a couple of examples. You tell me if I'm right, okay? A man named Strauss-Kahn, who was running a financial system for a foreign country, is brought down by a maid in a New York hotel.
Okay.
Huh? Dominic Strauss-Kahn. And you can go down the list all the way back to Fatty Arbuckle.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the ultimate guy, Samson, from Samson and Delilah. Brought down by beauty. Weak in the face of true
But
beauty.
that's not all men. That's just
Well, you're taking icons.
few-
And if icons can't withstand it, how's a normal man like me supposed to? Now look at you and melt.
just.
I feel like a chocolate candy bar on a
I'm
sidewalk.
not even going to attempt to answer
I
that.
feel like a
I'm
chocolate
just
candy
gonna-
bar on a
I'm gonna quit
sidewalk in
while
New
I'm
York. That's what I
ahead.
feel like. I've melted. We'll be right back. Sticky in here.
In the land of love, it seems just with you. Let me call you sweetheart. I'm in love.
I was going to say something, and I looked at Chanel Ryan and forgot what I was going to say. What's next for you? What are you doing next?
Let's see. I do Bad Kids Go to Hell too.
And was that the comedy?
It's a comedy horror, yeah.
Wait, comedy or
It's
horror?
a comedy horror.
She's blending her two favorite movies
You're
together
blending
now.
the two favorite genres.
She's blended
Well, it
them.
is,
All
well, there's-
kids go to
there
hell?
They're all bad kids.
All
we
bad
shot
kids go to
Bad
hell.
Kids Go to Hell 1
Right?
a couple of years ago at Judd Nelson, Ben Browder.
How is Jed Nelson to work with?
He's wonderful.
Is he good?
Yeah, wonderful.
He was one of the Brad Packers, right?
Exactly. Yeah, Breakfast Club. And
Breakfast
Bad
Club.
Kids Go to Hell is sort of a Breakfast Club meets The Grudge. But we're getting ready to shoot part 2, and I don't know if I'm allowed to. Some of the cast members are. Ben Browder's back. He's actually directing part 2.
Yeah.
Judd Nelson, myself, and then there's a few other pretty stellar A-list cast members, but I don't know if I'm allowed to
Don't say
announce
it
them
then.
Don't
yet.
tell 'em.
So
But
I
don't
won't.
tell 'em.
But do you do Comic-Con, things like that?
I have done Comic-Con.
How do you
yes.
like it?
It's fun. It's amazing to get out and meet the fans and sort of.
Do you have more male fans or female fans?
It's depends on the show. It's kind of equal.
Comic-Con.
You know. Well, you know what I did recently.
Right.
Frightmare, Texas Frightmare.
How was that?
That was probably the most fun I've ever had at a show. We did the world premiere of a straight horror, Circus of the Dead, there this past May.
Now, you got to be honest with me. More male fans or female fans of Circus of the Dead?
That was probably equal. And that, yeah.
Really?
At Comic-Con, I think it's more male fans. At
Yeah.
Frightmare, it was probably, what do we say, almost equal.
There is nothing you can do where the praise and the payoff is as good as this business, no matter where the business is. When
Well,
it's
it
right,
would-
it's right.
It would have to be with all the constant with all the rejection and with all the no's, so that it does make the praise and the payoffs that much
Well, I'm going to
bigger.
express something to you, which I truly, truly believe. I believe a lot of actors are drawn to a job where rejection is inherently there because they need the rejection to validate the fact that they were special when they succeed. Well, I want to say, Chanel, it was a pleasure having you here today. Where can I find you? What's your website?
You can find me on my website, chanelryan.com.
Mark, we can find you at behindthegatemovie.com.
Yes, and mjardino.
mjardino.com.
Yes.
Great job.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, sweetheart,
I
please.
always try to end all my interviews. I'm a huge animal activist.
Me too.
Are you?
Absolutely.
Well, what I always try to
Nothing
tell
with
people.
a face. Nothing with a face.
Yeah, that's
Nothing.
Good.
Well,
That's
maybe
awesome.
one thing.
Anyway, I always try to end my interviews by begging people, pleading with people to please spay and neuter your pets. And if you're considering getting a pet, adopt.
And that's how we roll.